There are secrets you hide your entire life, dreams at night about a man you can never touch, burning feelings you must extinguish every morning you wake. Evelyn Carter had lived like this for 5 years, until Lorenzo DeLuca, her powerful and dangerous boss, began looking at her in a way she never dared to dream. And when everything shattered, when the truth could no longer be hidden, she faced the question, is love worth losing yourself? Follow this story to the end. Hit like and comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far this story has traveled. Oh, Evelyn Carter had learned to disappear. Not in the obvious way. She showed up to work every morning at 7:45, answered emails within minutes, kept the conference room stocked with filtered water and the exact pens Lorenzo DeLuca preferred. She was efficient, reliable, the kind of assistant executive teams forgot existed until something went wrong. But inside, she was always somewhere else. The dream started 3 years ago, maybe longer. She couldn't pinpoint the exact night Lorenzo stopped being just her boss and became the man who haunted her sleep. In those dreams, he wasn't the controlled, sharp-edged CEO who ran DeLuca Industries with calculated precision. He was different, softer in some moments, fiercer in others. He looked at her like she mattered, like she was more than the woman who organized his calendar and kept his coffee black. No sugar. Every morning, she woke up hating herself a little more, because the dreams felt real, because some part of her, reckless and stupid, wanted them to be. She sat at her desk now, the thin October light cutting through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the 53rd floor. The city stretched below, all steel and glass and motion. People down there had normal problems. Traffic, rent, bad dates. Evelyn's problem was that she'd fallen in love with a man who didn't know she existed beyond her job title. Her phone buzzed. A text from her college roommate, Jenna. Drinks tonight? You've been a ghost, Evelyn typed back quickly. Can't. Working late. It wasn't a lie. Lorenzo had a dinner meeting with investors from Singapore, and she needed to prep the briefing materials. But even if she didn't have work, she wouldn't go. Jenna would ask questions. Jenna always asked questions, and Evelyn had run out of believable answers for why she never dated, never went out, never seemed interested in anything outside the office. How do you explain that you've spent 5 years in love with someone who sees you as furniture? The elevator chimed. Evelyn's spine straightened automatically. She didn't need to look up to know who it was. She'd memorized the sound of his footsteps, quick, purposeful, the kind of walk that said he didn't have time to waste. Lorenzo DeLuca moved through the office like he owned it, which he did. 38 years old, built like he still had time for the gym despite running a multi-billion-dollar corporation, dark hair starting to silver at the temples. He wore suits that cost more than her monthly rent, and he wore them like armor. Morning, Evelyn? His voice was low, rougher than it should be for someone who made his living in boardrooms. It always caught her off guard. Good morning, Mr. DeLuca. She kept her eyes on her screen, safer that way. I need the Bardwell contract pulled. Something's off with the liability clauses. I'll have it on your desk in 10 minutes. 5 would be better. She glanced up before she could stop herself. He was already looking at her, not the way he looked at contracts or quarterly reports, something else, something that made her throat tighten. 5 minutes, she said. He nodded and kept walking toward his office. She waited until his door clicked shut before she let out the breath she'd been holding. This was the worst part. Not the dreams, not the longing, the moments when he looked at her just a fraction too long, and her brain started inventing things that weren't there. She pulled the contract, flagged the sections legal had marked, and delivered it in 4 minutes. When she knocked, he didn't look up. Come in. His office was ridiculous. Massive desk, leather chairs, a bar cart that held bottles worth more than her car. The view behind him was all skyline, the kind of backdrop that reminded you exactly who you were dealing with. She set the folder on his desk. Clauses 18 and 22, legal noted discrepancies in the indemnification language. Did you read it? The question surprised her. I skimmed it. And? I'm not a lawyer, Mr. DeLuca. You have a brain. Use it. She hesitated. This was new. He'd never asked her opinion on actual business before. The language is vague. If something goes wrong, Bardwell could argue we're liable for damages we didn't cause. We'd spend more on litigation than the contract's worth. Lorenzo sat back in his chair, studying her. That's exactly what I thought. Then why ask me? The corner of his mouth lifted, not quite a smile. Wanted to see if you'd say it. She didn't know what to do with that, so she did what she always did, retreated. Will that be all? For now. She turned to leave. Evelyn. She stopped, hand on the door. Didn't turn around, couldn't. You don't have to call me Mr. DeLuca when it's just us. Her heart did something stupid. What should I call you? Lorenzo. She left without answering. The rest of the day crawled. She fielded calls, rescheduled a meeting with the CFO, ordered lunch for a presentation that ran long. Normal things. Things that should have kept her mind occupied, but all she could think about was the way he'd looked at her, the way he'd said her name. By 6, the office had emptied out. Just her and Lorenzo, and the janitorial staff that wouldn't arrive until 8. She should leave. Go home to her small apartment in a neighborhood she couldn't really afford, microwave something that tasted like cardboard, and pretend she had a life. Instead, she stayed. She told herself it was because of the Singapore meeting, because the materials needed to be perfect. But that was a lie, and she knew it. She stayed because leaving meant going 12 hours without seeing him. Pathetic. Her phone buzzed again. Jenna, persistent as always. You're going to die alone in that office. Evelyn almost laughed. Jenna wasn't wrong. She was drafting a response when Lorenzo's door opened. He'd taken off his jacket, loosened his tie. He looked tired. Human. You're still here. Finishing the briefing for tonight. I told you to go home at 5. You say a lot of things. His eyebrow lifted. Careful, Evelyn. That almost sounded like insubordination. Would you fire me for it? No. He crossed to her desk, leaned against it, too close. Close enough that she could smell his cologne. Something dark and expensive. But I'd wonder why you're picking a fight. She saved her document, shut down her computer. I'm not picking a fight. Then what are you doing? My job. Your job ended 3 hours ago. She stood, gathered her bag. Then I guess I'm bad at boundaries. He caught her wrist, not hard, just enough to stop her. Lorenzo, you've been different lately. Her pulse hammered. I don't know what you mean. You're lying. I'm tired. She pulled her hand back. He let her. I should go. Stay. The word hit her like a punch. She looked at him, really looked, and saw something she didn't recognize, something almost vulnerable. Why? Her voice came out too quiet. Because I'm asking. She should say no. She should walk out, go home, and spend the weekend building whatever walls he'd just knocked down. But she was so tired of running from something that only existed in her head. Okay. Ye? They ordered Chinese food. It felt surreal, sitting in his office with cartons of lo mein and kung pao chicken spread across his stupidly expensive desk. He'd poured them both whiskey. Good whiskey, the kind that burned smooth. You never talk about yourself, Lorenzo said, picking at his food with chopsticks. There's nothing to talk about. Everyone has something. I grew up in Ohio, went to college in Boston, moved here for work. That's it. Family? Her jaw tightened. My parents died when I was 19. Car accident. His expression shifted. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago. That doesn't make it easier. She took a sip of whiskey, let it burn away the lump in her throat. What about you? I've worked for you for 5 years and I know almost nothing about you. What do you want to know? Everything. Why'd you start DeLuca Industries? He was quiet for a moment. My father ran a construction company. Small operation, mostly residential. He was good at what he did, but he trusted the wrong people. Got screwed over by a contractor who didn't pay, went bankrupt, lost everything. He died 6 months later. Heart attack, but I think it was really shame that killed him. So you built an empire to prove something, to prove he deserved better. She understood that. The need to make something matter because someone you loved couldn't. He'd be proud, she said quietly. Maybe. Lorenzo drained his glass. Or maybe he'd think I sold out, traded integrity for profit. Did you? His eyes met hers. What do you think? She thought about the man she'd watched for 5 years, the one who paid his employees above market rate, who funded scholarships for kids from neighborhoods like the one his father grew up in, who worked 80-hour weeks because he didn't know how to do anything halfway. I think you're harder on yourself than anyone else could be. Something flickered across his face. You see too much. Occupational hazard. He smiled. A real one this time. It changed his whole face, made him look younger. Is that why you're so good at your job? You notice things? I notice everything. The whiskey was making her bold, stupid. It's a problem. What kinds of things do you notice? You, always you. Details, patterns, when something's off. And right now? He leaned forward slightly. Is something off? Yes, this, us, whatever this is. I don't know. Liar. She stood too fast. The room tilted slightly. I should go. Evelyn, thank you for dinner. She grabbed her bag, headed for the door. Why do you keep running? She froze, didn't turn around. I'm not running. Every time I get close to something real, you disappear. Why? Because you scare me. Because I've spent 5 years building a fantasy, and if I let it become real, it'll destroy me when it ends. I don't know what you want from me, she said. The truth. She laughed, bitter and sharp. You can't handle my truth. Try me. She should leave, should walk out and never look back. But the whiskey and the exhaustion and 5 years of swallowing everything made her reckless. She turned. You want the truth? Fine. I dream about you. Every night. I wake up and I hate myself because I know it's never going to be real. I spend every day pretending I don't feel anything, and it's killing me. So no, Lorenzo, I don't think you can handle my truth. The silence that followed was suffocating. His expression didn't change. He just stared at her, and she realized what she'd done. She'd taken the one secret that kept her safe and thrown it at his feet. I have to go. She didn't wait for a response, just walked out, got in the elevator, and didn't breathe until she was on the street. Tata. She called in sick the next day, and the day after that. Jenna showed up at her apartment with wine and Thai food and didn't ask questions, which meant she knew something was wrong. Evelyn loved her for it. You need to quit that job, Jenna said, pouring them both generous glasses of Pinot Grigio. I can't. Why not? Because leaving means never seeing him again. It pays well. There are other jobs, not like this one. Jenna gave her a look. Evie, you're miserable. I'm fine. You're in love with your boss. Evelyn's head snapped up. I never said you didn't have to. I've known for 3 years. Jenna took a sip of wine. You think you're subtle, but you're not. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. There's nothing to do. Did he say he doesn't feel the same way? I didn't give him the chance. So you ran. I panicked. And now? Now I figure out how to find a new job and move to a different city and pretend this never happened. Jenna shook her head. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. He's my boss, Jen. Even if he felt something, it's not going to work. I'm nobody. She gestured vaguely. He's Lorenzo De Luca. So what? He's still just a guy. He's not, though. You don't understand. Then help me understand. Evelyn set down her wine. He's brilliant, driven. He could have anyone. Models, actresses, women who match his world. Why would he want someone like me? Maybe because you're the only one who sees him as more than his net worth. That's not enough. How do you know? Evelyn didn't have an answer for that. On Monday, she went back to work. She'd rehearsed what she'd say. Professional, apologetic. She'd blame the whiskey, the late hour, stress. Anything to take back what she'd said. But when she got to her desk, there was a note. My office. Please. Her hand shook as she picked it up. His handwriting, bold, impatient slashes of ink. She wanted to run. Instead, she knocked on his door. Come in. He was standing by the window, hands in his pockets. He didn't turn around when she entered. Close the door. She did. The click sounded too loud. I'm sorry, she started. What I said on Friday was completely inappropriate. Don't. I crossed a line. Evelyn? He turned. His face was unreadable. Don't apologize for telling the truth. She didn't know what to say to that. He crossed the room slowly, stopped a few feet away. You think I didn't know? Her stomach dropped. What? You think I didn't notice? The way you look at me when you think I'm not paying attention, the way you find excuses to stay late, the way you freeze every time I get too close. Oh God, Lorenzo, I noticed. 3 years ago I noticed, and I told myself it didn't matter, that you were off limits, that I couldn't. He stopped, jaw tight. But then Friday happened, and you said what I've been thinking for 3 years, and I realized I'm done pretending. She couldn't breathe. What are you saying? I'm saying I dream about you too. I'm saying I spend board meetings thinking about the way you bite your lip when you're concentrating. I'm saying this. Whatever this is, it's not just you. The world tilted. That's not possible. Why not? Because She gestured at herself. I'm your assistant. I'm ordinary. I don't fit in your world. You think I care about that? You should. He stepped closer. She stepped back, hit the door. You're doing it again, he said quietly. Running. I'm protecting myself. From what? From you. From this. From the moment you realize I'm not what you thought and you... Her voice cracked. I can't survive that. His hand came up, cupped her face. She flinched, but didn't pull away. I'm not going to hurt you, he said. You will. Maybe not on purpose, but you will. Everyone does. Then I'll spend every day proving you wrong. She closed her eyes. This is a mistake. Probably. His thumb brushed her cheek. But I'm done fighting it. The question is, are you? She opened her eyes. He was so close, close enough to kiss, close enough to ruin everything. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. Neither do I. What if it doesn't work? What if it does? And there it was. The question that had haunted her for 5 years. What if the dream could be real? What if she stopped running and let herself fall? I'm scared, she admitted. So am I. You're not scared of anything. His smile was sad. I'm terrified of losing you before I even get the chance to have you. Something inside her cracked. Years of walls and fear and self-protection splintering under the weight of 4 words. I dream about you too. She kissed him, or he kissed her. She wasn't sure. It didn't matter. All that mattered was his mouth on hers, his hands in her hair, the way he pulled her close like he was afraid she'd disappear. And for the first time in 5 years, she stopped running. They didn't talk about what it meant. Not that day. He had meetings. She had work. They moved around each other carefully, like they were handling something fragile. In a way, they were. But things shifted. He started staying at the office later. So did she. They'd order dinner, talk about everything and nothing. He told her about growing up in Queens, about his mother who'd worked 3 jobs to keep them afloat after his father died. She told him about the foster home she'd lived in after her parents' accident, about the scholarship that saved her, about the loneliness that never quite went away. They fit. In a way she hadn't expected. He didn't try to kiss her again, not for a week, like he was waiting for her to be sure. She was sure. Terrified, but sure. It was a Thursday when everything changed again. They were working late. Actually working, not just pretending. He'd shed his jacket hours ago, rolled up his sleeves. She liked him like this, rumpled, human. Come to dinner with me, he said suddenly. She looked up from her laptop. We have dinner every night. Not here, a restaurant, a real date. Her heart stuttered. Is that what this is? Dating? I don't know what else to call it. People will talk. Let them. Lorenzo. I know all the reasons this is complicated, but I'm asking anyway. He stood, crossed to her desk. Go to dinner with me, not as my assistant, as the woman I can't stop thinking about. She wanted to say yes, but the fear crept back in, cold and familiar. What if someone sees us? She asked. What if it gets back to the board? Then they'll know I'm seeing someone. They'll survive. But my job is safe. No matter what happens between us, your job is safe. I'll put it in writing if you want. That's not the point. Then what is? She stood, paced to the window. The city glowed below, indifferent to her crisis. If this falls apart, I lose everything. You're my boss. You're You're my whole life right now. And if it ends badly, I don't just lose you. I lose my career, my stability, everything I've built. You risk nothing. I risk everything. He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful. You're right. The power dynamic is uneven. And maybe I'm selfish for pushing this anyway. But I can't. He stopped, ran a hand through his hair. I've never felt like this before. And I think you feel it too. So yes, there's risk. But isn't it worth it? I don't know. Then figure it out. Because I'm not going to chase you, Evelyn. I'm not going to push you into something you're not ready for. But I need to know if there's a chance. Because if there's not, I need to start moving on. The thought of him moving on, of him looking at someone else the way he looked at her, made her feel sick. Give me time, she said. How much? I don't know. He nodded, stepped back. Okay, but not forever. I can't do forever. She took the weekend to think. Jenna told her she was overthinking. Her therapist, the one she'd started seeing 2 years ago when the dreams got too intense, told her to examine her fear, to figure out if it was protecting her or holding her back. Sunday night, she had her answer. Monday morning, she got to work early. Lorenzo was already there, tie perfect, armor back in place. He greeted her the way he always had. Polite, professional. Like nothing had changed. It hurt more than she expected. She made it until lunch before she broke. She knocked on his door. He looked up, wary. Can we talk? She asked. Of course. She closed the door, stayed standing. I want to go to dinner with you, a real date, but I need some ground rules first. His expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. I'm listening. If this doesn't work, if we try and it falls apart, I don't want it to be ugly. I don't want to lose my job or my reputation. I need your word that we'll handle it like adults. You have it, and I need us to be honest. No games, no half-truths. If you're not feeling it anymore, you tell me. If I'm not enough, you tell me. I can handle rejection. I can't handle being strung along. Evelyn, I mean it. I've spent too many years loving someone who didn't see me. I'm not doing it again. His jaw tightened. Is that what you think this is? I don't know what this is. That's the problem. He stood, rounded his desk, stopped in front of her. I see you. I've seen you for 3 years, and I'm not perfect. I'm going to screw this up, probably more than once, but I'm not going to string you along, and I'm sure as hell not going to make you feel invisible. She searched his face, found only sincerity. Okay, she said. Okay? Okay, take me to dinner. He smiled, really smiled. Friday, I'll pick you up at 7. I'll be ready. She turned to leave. His hand caught hers and pulled her back. He kissed her, soft and quick. Thank you, he murmured against her lips. For what? For not running this time. That Friday took forever to arrive. When it finally did, she stood in front of her closet for 20 minutes, trying to figure out what you wore to dinner with the man you'd been in love with for 5 years. Everything looked wrong, too casual, too desperate, too much. She finally settled on a black dress, simple, elegant, nothing that screamed trying too hard. He showed up at 7 exactly. Suit, no tie. He looked nervous. She liked that. You look beautiful, he said. You look terrified. I'm terrified. Good. Me too. They went to a small Italian place in the West Village. Quiet. Intimate. The kind of restaurant that didn't care if you were a CEO or a janitor, as long as you appreciated the food. It was perfect. They talked. Really talked. Not about work. About everything else. Books they'd loved, movies they'd hated, the kind of future they wanted. He told her about a sister who lived in California, who he hadn't spoken to in 2 years over an argument he couldn't even remember anymore. She told him about the guilt she carried, that her parents died driving to pick her up from college, that she'd been too hungover to drive herself. It wasn't your fault, he said. I know, but knowing doesn't make it easier. No, it doesn't. They shared tiramisu. He paid, despite her protests. They walked the long way back to his car, just to stretch the night out longer. Can I ask you something? She said as they walked. Anything. Why me? You could have anyone. Why someone like me? He stopped walking, turned to face her. Because you're the only person who looks at me and sees past the money and the title. Because you call me out when I'm being an ass. Because you're brilliant and you don't even realize it. Because you make me want to be better. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Because when I'm with you, I don't feel like I'm performing. I just feel like me. She kissed him, right there on the sidewalk in front of strangers and streetlights and the indifferent city. Kissed him like she'd wanted to for 5 years. When they broke apart, she was breathless. "Take me home, Ma," she said. "Evelyn, not like that. I mean, not yet. Just, I don't want tonight to end." He smiled. "Neither do I." They drove to his place, a penthouse in Tribeca that was somehow both stunning and sterile. Too clean, too curated. Like a showroom. "You don't really live here, do you?" she asked, looking around. "What do you mean?" "I mean, there's no mess, no personality. It's beautiful, but it doesn't feel like you." He looked uncomfortable. "I'm not here much. That's sad. It's practical. It's lonely." He didn't argue, just poured them both wine and led her to the balcony. The view was insane, the whole city spread out like scattered diamonds. "I could get used to this," she said. "The view?" "All of it." They sat in comfortable silence, drinking wine and watching the city breathe. She felt his hand find hers, lace their fingers together. "I'm glad you said yes," he said quietly. "To dinner?" "To all of it." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Me too." And for the first time in as long as she could remember, the fear was smaller than the hope. They didn't sleep together that night, or the next, or the one after that. It wasn't for lack of wanting. Every time Lorenzo kissed her goodnight at her apartment door, every time his hands lingered on her waist just a beat too long, she felt the pull. But something held her back. Some last wall she couldn't quite tear down. He didn't push. That was the thing about Lorenzo she hadn't expected, his patience. At work, he was all sharp edges and quick decisions. With her, he moved slow, like he understood she was still learning to trust this. The office became complicated in new ways. They kept it professional during business hours. Mostly. But there were moments. His hand brushing hers when she passed him documents. The way his eyes followed her across the room during meetings. The private smile he saved just for her when no one else was looking. People noticed. Of course they noticed. "You and DeLuca seem friendlier lately," Marcus from legal said one afternoon, voice carefully neutral. Evelyn didn't look up from her computer. "He's been in a good mood." That's one way to put it. She could feel Marcus watching her, waiting for her to slip. She kept typing. "Did you need something, Marcus?" "Just making conversation. I have a lot of work." He left, but the interaction rattled her. She wasn't stupid. Office gossip spread like wildfire, and she and Lorenzo had been spending a suspicious amount of time together, late nights, closed-door meetings that went longer than necessary, lunch breaks where they both mysteriously disappeared. She brought it up that night. They were at her apartment this time. Lorenzo had shown up with Thai food and that same patient look that simultaneously comforted and frustrated her. "People are starting to talk," she said, picking at her pad thai. "Let them talk. Easy for you to say. You're the boss. I'm the one they'll call." She stopped herself. "Call what?" She set down her fork. "A lot of things, none of them good." His jaw tightened. "Anyone gives you trouble, you tell me." "That'll make it worse. You defending me just proves their point." "Which is what, exactly?" "That I slept my way into your good graces." "That's bullshit. You've been exceptional at your job for 5 years, long before this started." "Facts don't matter when people want a story." She pulled her knees to her chest. "Maybe we should cool it at work. Be more careful." Or maybe we should stop hiding." She stared at him. "You want to go public?" "Eventually, yes." "Lorenzo, not tomorrow. Not even next week. But at some point, if this is going where I think it's going, people are going to know. And I'd rather control that narrative than let Marcus from legal write it for us." He had a point, but the thought of everyone knowing, of being looked at, judged, whispered about, made her feel sick. "I need time," she said quietly. "How much time?" "I don't know, more than a week." He studied her, then nodded. "Okay, but Evelyn, at some point you have to decide if I'm worth the risk. I know. Do you? He leaned forward. Because it feels like you're still keeping one foot out the door. That's not fair. Isn't it? Every time we get close to something real, you pull back. I understand you're scared, but I can't be the only one fighting for this. The words hit harder than she expected, because he was right. She was fighting for them, but she was also fighting against herself. Against every instinct that said this was too good to be real, that people like her didn't end up with people like him. I'm trying, she said, voice small. His expression softened. I know you are. He didn't stay that night. Left early, said he had an early meeting, but she knew the real reason. He was giving her space to figure out what she wanted. The problem was, she already knew what she wanted. She just didn't know if she was brave enough to take it. The annual DeLuca Industries Gala was 3 weeks away. It was the kind of event Evelyn usually coordinated from behind the scenes: venue, caterers, seating charts, emergency contact lists for the handful of board members who would inevitably get too drunk and need a car service. She'd attended twice before, both times in a staff capacity, making sure everything ran smoothly while staying invisible. This year felt different. Come with me, Lorenzo said. They were in his office, going over the guest list. As my date, her pen froze mid-notation. What? The gala. Come with me. Not as my assistant. As my girlfriend. The word girlfriend hit her like a physical thing. They'd been seeing each other for almost a month now, but they'd never put a label on it. Hearing him say it out loud made it real in a way that terrified her. That's a terrible idea, she said. Why? Because the entire board will be there. Every investor, every major client. It'll be a circus. So? So I'm not ready for that kind of scrutiny. He set down his tablet. When will you be ready? I don't know. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. She stood, paced to the window. You don't understand what you're asking. If I show up on your arm, that's a statement. That's telling everyone that we're serious, that this isn't just some fling. It's not a fling. I know that, but they don't. Then let's show them. She turned. Why is this so important to you? Because I'm tired of hiding. Because I want to dance with you in front of people who matter to me. Because, he stopped, ran a hand through his hair. Because I'm falling in love with you, and I don't want to keep pretending I'm not. The room tilted. He'd said it, just threw it out there like it was simple, like love was something you could just admit to without your entire world shifting on its axis. Lorenzo, you don't have to say it back. I know you're not there yet, but I needed you to know where I stand. He crossed to her, took her hands. Come to the gala with me. Let me show you off. Let me be proud of you. She wanted to say yes, wanted it so badly it hurt, but the fear was louder. I need to think about it, she said. Something flickered across his face, disappointment maybe, or resignation. Okay. I'm not saying no, you need time, I know. He dropped her hand, stepped back. Take all the time you need. But the way he said it sounded like he was running out of patience. Jenna's take was predictable. Are you out of your mind? He basically told you he loves you and you said you need to think about it? They were at a wine bar in Soho, tucked into a corner booth where Jenna could yell at her without disturbing other patrons. I didn't say I need to think about whether I love him back, Evelyn protested. I said I need to think about the gala. What? Die beste spot. Same difference. It's not. Evie. The man wants to take you to a black tie event in front of everyone who matters in his professional life. That's not a casual ask. That's him saying you're important, that you're permanent. I know what it means. Then why are you hesitating? Evelyn drained her wine glass, signaled for another. Because what if I'm not enough? What if I show up and everyone sees exactly what I see? That I don't belong in his world? That I'm just the assistant he got attached to? Is that really what you think? I don't know what I think anymore. Jenna reached across the table, grabbed her hand. Listen to me. You are smart, capable, and you've been running that man's life for 5 years. You're not just some assistant. You're a force. And if he can't see that, he doesn't deserve you. He does see it. That's not the problem. Then what is? Evelyn was quiet for a long moment. I've spent my whole life feeling like I'm one mistake away from losing everything. My parents died and I had nothing. I worked my ass off to build a career, to make myself indispensable, because being needed felt safer than being loved. And now Lorenzo is offering me something I've wanted for years, and all I can think about is how badly it's going to hurt when it ends. Who says it has to end? Everything ends. Not if you don't let it. Evelyn laughed, bitter. That's not how life works. No, but it's how love works. You decide to fight for it. You decide it's worth the risk. And yeah, maybe it blows up in your face. Maybe you get hurt, but maybe, just maybe, you get something beautiful instead. Evelyn wanted to believe that. Wanted to believe that she could be the kind of person who took the leap and didn't look down. But every instinct she had screamed at her to protect herself. I don't know if I'm brave enough, she admitted. Then get brave. Because you're about to lose the best thing that's ever happened to you. She didn't give Lorenzo an answer about the gala, not that week or the next. Instead, she threw herself into work. The event was massive, 400 guests, a silent auction, a 5-course dinner. She coordinated with caterers, confirmed RSVPs, handled seating arrangements with the precision of a general planning a military campaign. Lorenzo watched her. She could feel it. But he didn't push, didn't bring up the gala, didn't mention love again. Just let her work herself into exhaustion while he kept his distance. It was exactly what she'd asked for. So why did it feel like punishment? 2 weeks before the gala, everything fell apart. She was in the break room making coffee when 2 junior associates walked in. They didn't see her at first. She was partially hidden by the open door. I'm just saying, it's obvious, one of them said. Rebecca, from marketing. She's sleeping with him. You don't know that. That was Tim, newer hire, still idealistic. Oh, please, late nights, closed-door meetings, the way he looks at her, it's textbook. Maybe they're actually working. Rebecca laughed. Right, because Lorenzo DeLuca suddenly needs his assistant's input on billion-dollar deals. Come on, she's probably been on her back since day one. Evelyn's hands shook. Coffee sloshed over the rim of her mug. That's harsh, Tim said, uncomfortable. It's realistic. Women like her, they know exactly what they're doing. Find a rich, powerful man and latch on. It's the oldest game in the book. Evelyn stepped into view. Both associates froze. Rebecca's face went pale. Hi, Evelyn said, voice ice. Didn't mean to interrupt. Just getting coffee. She walked past them, head high, hands steady despite the rage shaking through her. She made it back to her desk before the tears started. Oz, she didn't tell Lorenzo. Didn't see the point. Firing Rebecca would just confirm everyone's suspicions, and she'd be damned if she gave them the satisfaction. But it changed something in her. Made her realize that no matter how careful they were, people had already decided who she was, what she was. She went home early that day, sent Lorenzo a text saying she wasn't feeling well. It wasn't entirely a lie. He showed up at her apartment 3 hours later. You didn't answer your phone, he said when she opened the door. I was sleeping. You weren't sleeping. She didn't argue, just let him in, closed the door, wrapped her arms around herself. What happened? He asked. Nothing. Evelyn, I said nothing. He studied her, then crossed to her kitchen, started making tea. It was such a domestic gesture, so at odds with the CEO who commanded boardrooms, that something in her chest cracked. People think I'm sleeping with you for your money, she said quietly. His hands stilled. Who said that? Does it matter? They're all thinking it. Tell me who. No. Evelyn, firing them won't help. It'll just prove their point. She took the tea he offered, didn't drink it. I knew this would happen. I knew the second we started this that people would assume the worst, and I did it anyway because I'm an idiot who thought maybe it would be worth it. Is it? His voice was careful. Worth it? She looked at him, really looked. At the man who'd been patient when she needed space, who told her he loved her without expecting anything back, who showed up at her door when she was falling apart. I don't know, she whispered. Something in his expression shuddered. Okay. Lorenzo, no, it's fine. I get it. He set down his mug. I've been pushing too hard, asking for more than you're ready to give. That's on me. That's not... I should go. Don't. She caught his arm. Please don't go. Why? So you can keep one foot out the door while I'm all in? I can't do this, Evelyn. I can't keep fighting for something you're not sure you want. I do want it. Then prove it. Come to the gala. Show them we're real. Or don't, and we end this now before it gets messier. The ultimatum hung between them, sharp and unforgiving. That's not fair, she said. Life's not fair. But I need to know if you're willing to fight for this as hard as I am. Because if you're not, we're wasting each other's time. She wanted to argue, to tell him he was being unreasonable, that he didn't understand the stakes. But he did understand. He just didn't care about the same things she did. I need time, she said again. You've had time. He pulled his arm free gently. I'll be at the gala, with or without you. And after that, we figure out if there's anything left to salvage. He left. She didn't stop him. The next week was hell. They were professional at work, polite, cold. Every interaction felt like walking on glass. He didn't come to her apartment, didn't call, gave her exactly what she'd asked for, space. She hated it. Jenna told her she was being stubborn. Her therapist told her to examine what she was really afraid of. Everyone had opinions. No one had answers. 3 days before the gala, she made a decision. She found Lorenzo in his office, late. He looked exhausted, probably felt the same way she did. Can we talk? She asked. He glanced up, expression carefully neutral. Of course. She closed the door, stayed standing. I've been thinking about what you said, about fighting for this, about proving I'm all in. And? And you're right. I've been keeping one foot out the door. I've been so afraid of getting hurt that I didn't realize I was hurting you, hurting us. She took a breath. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to wake up in 5 years and wonder what would have happened if I'd been braver. His expression didn't change. What are you saying? I'm saying yes. To the gala. To us. To all of it. Evelyn, I know it's scary. I know people are going to talk. But I also know that what we have is real. And I'm tired of hiding it. Tired of being ashamed of something that makes me happy. He stood slowly, rounded his desk, stopped in front of her. You're sure? Terrified, but sure. If you're doing this just to keep me... I'm doing this because I love you. The words came out easier than she expected, like they'd been waiting there all along, just needing permission. His eyes widened. What? I love you. I've loved you for years, and I'm done pretending I don't. He kissed her, hard and desperate, like he'd been holding back for weeks. Maybe he had been. When they broke apart, she was breathless. Say it again, he murmured against her lips. I love you. Again. I love you, Lorenzo De Luca. He smiled, really smiled. I love you too. They didn't leave the office for another hour, and when they finally did, it was together. The gala was exactly as terrifying as she'd imagined. She'd bought a dress, emerald green, simple but elegant. Lorenzo had sent a car for her. When she stepped out onto the red carpet outside the Metropolitan Museum, flashbulbs exploded. She froze. Breathe, Lorenzo murmured, appearing at her side. He looked devastating in a tuxedo. I've got you. His hand found the small of her back, steadying her. They walked in together, and she felt every eye in the room track their movement. Mr. De Luca, who's your date? A reporter shoving a microphone in their faces. This is Evelyn Carter, Lorenzo said smoothly. My girlfriend. The word echoed. Girlfriend. Out loud. On record. There was no taking it back now. The night blurred. Introductions, handshakes, polite conversation with people who sized her up like livestock. She smiled until her face hurt, made small talk until her voice felt raw. But Lorenzo never left her side. His hand stayed on her back, her waist, her hand, claiming her, protecting her. You're doing great, he whispered during dinner. I'm dying. You're perfect. She didn't feel perfect, but when he looked at her like that, she almost believed it. They danced. Of course they danced. A slow song, something classical she didn't recognize. His arms around her, the world narrowing to just them. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For being brave. For being here. I'm still terrified. I know, but you're here anyway. That's what matters. She rested her head on his shoulder, let the music carry them. For a moment, she forgot about the stares, the whispers, the judgment. For a moment, it was just them. When the song ended, he didn't let her go. I want to show you something, he said. He led her through the crowd, out onto a balcony overlooking the park. The city stretched out before them, glittering and alive. I used to come to this museum when I was a kid, he said, after my dad died. It was free on certain days, and my mom would bring me here when she had time off. We'd walk through the exhibits and pretend we were rich, that we belonged here. She'd never heard him talk about his childhood like this. Vulnerable, raw. I'd stand on this balcony and promise myself that one day I'd actually belong, that I'd be the kind of person who got invited to galas like this. He turned to her. And now I am. But none of it meant anything until tonight, until I got to stand here with you. Her throat tightened. Lorenzo, I know you're scared. I know this is hard. But I need you to know that you belong here. Not because you're with me, because you're exceptional all on your own. She kissed him, right there on the balcony, in full view of anyone who cared to look. I love you, she said when they broke apart. I love you too. They stayed like that for a while, just breathing, just being. And for the first time since this whole thing started, Evelyn felt like maybe, just maybe, she could do this. The fallout from the gala was immediate. Monday morning, her inbox exploded. Questions from HR, requests for meetings, a formal inquiry from the board about potential conflicts of interest. Lorenzo handled it, called an emergency board meeting, laid everything out. Their relationship was consensual, had started after 5 years of professional conduct, and wouldn't impact her job performance. He offered to have her report to someone else if it made them more comfortable. The board wasn't happy, but they couldn't fire her without cause, and Lorenzo made it clear that any retaliation would result in his immediate resignation. They backed down. But the office was different after that. People looked at her differently, some with respect, some with disdain, a few with pity. She held her head high and did her job. You okay? Lorenzo asked one night. They were at his place, finally christening his sterile penthouse with actual life. Honestly, no, but I will be. They'll get over it. Maybe. Or maybe I'll always be the assistant who slept her way to the top. You didn't sleep your way anywhere. You earned your position. I know that. Doesn't mean they'll believe it. He pulled her close, pressed a kiss to her temple. Then we proved them wrong. She smiled against his shoulder. We? We. You're not in this alone anymore. And that, more than anything, made it bearable. Things settled into something that almost felt normal after that. Not easy, never easy, but manageable. Evelyn moved through the office with her head high, ignored the whispers that followed her into conference rooms, and did her job with the same precision she always had. Lorenzo backed her up in every meeting, every decision, making it clear that she was there on merit, not favoritism. But the cracks started showing in places she didn't expect. It started small. A client dinner where the wife of a major investor made a pointed comment about how nice it must be to have access to the boss after hours. A board meeting where one of the older members questioned whether Evelyn's presence was still necessary now that her role had become more personal than professional. Little cuts that added up. She handled it. She'd handled worse. What she couldn't handle was the slow realization that her entire identity had shifted. For 5 years, she'd been Evelyn Carter, executive assistant, the woman who made things run smoothly. Now she was Lorenzo DeLuca's girlfriend, the woman who'd captured the attention of one of the most powerful men in the city. She hated that the second definition was starting to eclipse the first. You're quiet tonight, Lorenzo said. They were at her apartment. He'd been spending more time there lately, said he liked it better than his sterile penthouse. She was curled up on the couch while he finished some emails on his laptop, just thinking. About? She considered lying, decided against it. About who I am now, what I've become. He closed the laptop, gave her his full attention. What do you mean? I mean, I used to be good at my job, really good. And now I feel like I'm just playing a part. Lorenzo's girlfriend, the woman who used to work for him. You're still good at your job. That hasn't changed, hasn't it? People don't see me the same way anymore. Half the office thinks I'm there because I'm sleeping with you. The other half thinks I've sold out. Do you care what they think? Of course I care. I've spent my entire career building credibility, and now it feels like it's all been erased. He was quiet for a moment. Do you regret it? Us? No, but I regret that loving you came at the cost of everything I worked for. It didn't have to cost anything. You're choosing to see it that way. The comment stung. That's not fair, isn't it? You're so focused on what other people think that you're forgetting what you know to be true. You earned your position. You're brilliant at what you do. And if people can't see that, that's their problem, not yours. Easy for you to say. You're not the one whose entire career is being questioned. No, but I'm the one watching you tear yourself apart over opinions that don't matter. She stood, needing distance. They matter to me. Why? Because some investor's wife made a catty comment? Because Marcus from legal has an opinion? These people don't know you. They don't know what you're capable of. But they have power. They control access, opportunities. Their opinions shape how I'm perceived. Only if you let them. She turned on him. You don't get it. You've never had to fight for respect. You were born into a family business, you built an empire, and everyone falls in line because that's what they do. I've had to scrape for every inch of credibility I have, and now it's gone. His jaw tightened. You think I didn't have to fight? You think my last name automatically gave me respect? That's not what I meant. My father died bankrupt and humiliated. I spent my 20s rebuilding a reputation he destroyed. Every deal I made, people were waiting for me to fail. Waiting to say I was just like him, another DeLuca who couldn't be trusted. So don't tell me I don't understand fighting for respect. The anger in his voice surprised her. She'd never heard him talk about his father like this. Raw, bitter. I'm sorry, she said quietly. That was unfair. He sighed, ran a hand through his hair. We're both tired. Let's not do this tonight. Do what? Fight about things that don't matter. My career matters. I know it does, and I'm not dismissing that. But I need you to trust that you haven't lost anything by being with me. If anything, you've gained something. What's that? Someone who sees your worth, who believes in you even when you don't believe in yourself. She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this wasn't a mistake. But the fear lingered, cold and persistent. He left shortly after. Said he had an early meeting, but she knew he was giving her space. They'd gotten good at that, knowing when to push and when to retreat. She didn't sleep well that night. The next morning brought a new problem. Evelyn was at her desk, reviewing contracts, when her phone rang. Unknown number, she almost didn't answer. Evelyn Carter? Yes? This is Detective Sarah Chen with the NYPD. I need to speak with you about your brother. Her blood went cold. I don't have a brother. Half-brother. Michael Patterson. He listed you as his emergency contact. The name hit her like a punch. Michael. She hadn't heard from him in almost 10 years. Hadn't wanted to. What happened? He's been arrested. Multiple charges. Fraud, embezzlement, identity theft. He's asking to speak with you. Tell him no. Ms. Carter, I haven't spoken to Michael in a decade. Whatever he's done, I'm not involved. We're not suggesting you are, but he claims to have information relevant to an ongoing investigation. He'll only talk to you. Evelyn closed her eyes, felt the familiar weight of family obligations she'd spent years trying to escape. What kind of information? I can't discuss that over the phone. Can you come to the precinct? When? Today, if possible. She hung up, stared at her phone like it had personally betrayed her. Lorenzo appeared in her doorway. Everything okay? I need to take a personal day. What's wrong? She didn't want to get into it, didn't want to explain the brother she'd never mentioned, the family history she'd buried. But he was looking at her with that expression that said he wasn't going to let this go. My half-brother got arrested. The police want to talk to me. About what? I don't know. Probably nothing good. She grabbed her bag. I need to handle this. Let me come with you. No. Evelyn. This is my mess. I'll deal with it. She left before he could argue. The precinct was exactly as depressing as she expected. Fluorescent lights, industrial furniture, the smell of old coffee, and desperation. Detective Chen was a compact woman in her 40s with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Thanks for coming, she said, leading Evelyn to an interrogation room. I know this is difficult. Can you just tell me what this is about? Chen pulled out a file, spread photos across the table. Bank statements, wire transfers, documents with forged signatures. Your brother was running a sophisticated fraud operation, targeting elderly investors, promising high returns on fake ventures. He's stolen close to $2 million over the past 3 years. Evelyn's stomach turned. And you think I'm involved? No. But he claims he has information about someone you know, someone high profile. Who? Lorenzo De Luca. The world tilted. What kind of information? He says De Luca Industries is involved in illegal offshore accounts, money laundering, tax evasion. He has documents. That's bullshit. Maybe, but we need to verify, and he'll only talk if you're there. Evelyn wanted to walk out, wanted to tell them Michael was a liar and a criminal, and anything he said was designed to save his own skin. But the cop in front of her looked serious. Too serious. Let me talk to him. Chen led her to another room. Michael was on the other side of the glass, older, harder, still wearing that same smirk she remembered from childhood, the one that said he thought he was smarter than everyone else. She picked up the phone. He did the same. Evie, been a while. Don't call me that. What do you want? Heard you moved up in the world, dating a billionaire. Good for you. What information do you supposedly have about Lorenzo? His smirk widened. Straight to business. I always liked that about you. Answer the question, or I'm walking. I have documents proving De Luca Industries has been moving money through shell companies, hiding assets, the kind of thing the IRS would be very interested in. You're lying, am I? Your boyfriend's squeaky clean reputation, you really think he built $1 billion company without cutting corners? Lorenzo would never. Everyone cuts corners, Evie. Some are just better at hiding it. She wanted to hang up, wanted to tell him to go to hell, but something in his eyes made her pause. He believed what he was saying. Where did you get these documents? That's need-to-know information. Then I don't need to hear this. Wait. He leaned forward. I'll make you a deal. Get me a lawyer, a good one, and I'll give you everything I have. You can decide what to do with it. Why would I help you? Because I'm family. And because if this information goes public, your boyfriend's empire crumbles, along with your nice new life. The threat was clear. Help him or watch everything burn. I need to think about it, she said. Don't think too long. My arraignment's in 48 hours. After that, I talk to whoever will listen. She hung up, walked out without looking back. Detective Chen was waiting. What did he say? He wants a deal, a lawyer in exchange for information. Are you going to help him? I don't know. Ms. Carter, if your brother has evidence of criminal activity, we need to see it, regardless of who it implicates. I understand. She left the precinct, got in her car, and just sat there. Her hands were shaking. Her mind was racing. Michael was a liar. Always had been. But he was also smart. If he said he had documents, he probably had something. Whether it was real or fabricated, she didn't know. But the fact that he was willing to use it against Lorenzo, against her, made her feel sick. She drove to Lorenzo's office, bypassed her desk, walked straight into his office, and closed the door. He looked up, startled. What happened? We need to talk. He stood immediately. You're scaring me. My brother claims to have evidence that De Luca Industries is involved in illegal offshore accounts, money laundering, tax evasion. The color drained from his face. What? He was arrested for fraud, says he'll only share the information if I get him a lawyer. If I don't, he goes public. Lorenzo sat down slowly. Is it real? The evidence? I don't know. Michael's a liar, but he seemed confident. I need to see what he has. That's not how this works. He wants a deal first. Then get him a lawyer, whatever it costs. She stared at him. You're not even going to deny it? Deny what? That you have offshore accounts, that you've been hiding money. His jaw tightened. I'm not discussing my company's financial structure with you right now. Lorenzo, I've done nothing illegal, but yes. De Luca Industries uses offshore accounts. Every major corporation does. It's tax strategy, not evasion. Then why are you worried? Because context doesn't matter if it goes public. People hear offshore accounts and they think criminal. It doesn't matter that it's legal. The damage is done. She sank into a chair. So what do we do? We get your brother a lawyer. We see what he has, and we prepare for the worst. This is my fault. How is this your fault? He's my family, my problem. And now it's going to destroy everything you've built. Evelyn, look at me. He crouched in front of her chair. This is not your fault. Your brother made his choices. You're not responsible for them. But I am. Because if I'd stayed in contact, if I'd known what he was doing, you'd what? Stopped him? He's a grown man who made criminal decisions. That's on him. She wanted to believe that, but the guilt sat heavy in her chest. I'll call a lawyer, she said quietly. See what we're dealing with. Use my attorney, David Cho. He's the best. Lorenzo, I'm not letting you handle this alone. She nodded, too tired to argue. The next 48 hours were a nightmare. David Cho was efficient and expensive, exactly what she expected from someone Lorenzo trusted. He met with Michael, reviewed the documents, and came back with a assessment that made her stomach drop. Some of it's real, he said. They were in Lorenzo's office, her, Lorenzo, and David. The offshore accounts exist. The shell companies are legitimate, but the framing is misleading. Your brother's made it look like money laundering when it's actually standard corporate tax strategy. Can he prove that? Evelyn asked. In court? Yes. In the media? No. Once this story breaks, the damage is done. Doesn't matter if we're cleared later. Lorenzo was silent, staring out the window. What are our options? Evelyn pressed. We can try to negotiate. Get your brother to agree to confidentiality in exchange for legal representation. But there's no guarantee he'll honor it. So we're screwed either way. Not necessarily. If we move first, release a statement explaining the offshore accounts before he can weaponize them, we control the narrative. That's a risk, Lorenzo said, not turning around. It opens us up to scrutiny we might not survive. And if we don't, your brother does it for us, David pointed out. At least this way, you're honest, transparent. That buys goodwill. Evelyn looked at Lorenzo. He still hadn't moved, hadn't reacted, just stood there like a statue. What do you want to do? She asked quietly. He finally turned. I want your brother to disappear. But since that's not an option, we do what David suggests. We get ahead of it. Are you sure? No. But I'm not letting some two-bit con artist destroy everything because we were too afraid to be honest. David nodded. I'll draft a statement. We'll release it tomorrow, before the arraignment. After he left, Evelyn and Lorenzo sat in silence. I'm sorry, she said finally. For what? For bringing this into your life, for... Don't. He crossed to her, pulled her into his arms. This isn't your fault. Say it. It feels like my fault. That's not what I asked. She pressed her face into his chest. This isn't my fault. Again. This isn't my fault. Good. Now stop apologizing. She held on to him, felt his heartbeat steady and strong. What if this ruins everything? Then we deal with it, together. You could lose the company. I could lose you. That's what I'm actually worried about. She pulled back to look at him. You're not going to lose me. You sure about that? Because every time something hard happens, you start looking for the exit. The accusation hurt because it was true. I'm not looking for an exit right now. But you were, earlier, when you said this was your fault. That's different. Is it? Or were you already planning how to remove yourself from the equation so I wouldn't have to deal with your mess? She didn't answer. Couldn't. I love you, he said. All of you, including the complicated family and the brother who's a criminal and the fear that you're not enough. But I need you to stop trying to protect me by pushing me away. We're in this together. That means the good and the bad. I don't know how to do that. Then learn. Because I'm not going anywhere, and I need you to stop planning your escape route. She nodded, throat tight. Say it, he pressed. Say you're not leaving. I'm not leaving. Even if this gets ugly? Even then. He kissed her forehead. Okay, then we fight. The statement went out the next morning. Lorenzo held a press conference, explained the offshore accounts, provided documentation showing everything was legal. The media went into a frenzy anyway. Evelyn watched from the office as reporters tore into every aspect of DeLuca Industries' finances. Watched as Lorenzo defended himself with the same calm precision he brought to every crisis. Watched as Michael was arraigned and tried to spin his own narrative about being a whistleblower. The board called an emergency meeting. There was talk of forcing Lorenzo to step down pending investigation. of restructuring leadership, of damage control that didn't include the man who'd built the company from scratch. Evelyn sat in her office, fielding calls, managing the chaos, and trying not to think about how her family had managed to destroy the one good thing in her life. "You should eat," Jenna said, appearing with a bag from Evelyn's favorite deli. "You look like death." "I feel like death." "This isn't your fault. Everyone keeps saying that. Doesn't make it true." Jenna set down the food, pulled up a chair. "Okay, real talk. Yes, your brother's a scumbag. Yes, this situation is a disaster. But Lorenzo made the choice to be with you knowing you came with baggage. We all do. And if he can't handle it, that's on him, not you. The board wants him out. The board is full of old men who panic at the first sign of controversy. They'll get over it. And if they don't, then Lorenzo finds something else. He's brilliant. He'll land on his feet. He shouldn't have to. This company is everything to him." "No, you're everything to him. The company is just what he does." Evelyn wanted to believe that, but the evidence suggested otherwise. She'd seen the way Lorenzo looked when the board questioned his leadership, seen the way his shoulders tensed when another news story broke. This was killing him, and it was all because of her. She found him late that night, alone in his office. The lights were off except for his desk lamp. He looked exhausted. "You should go home," she said from the doorway. "So should you." "I'm not the one who's been in meetings for 12 hours straight." He leaned back in his chair. "Board wants me to take a temporary leave of absence. Let someone else run things while the investigation happens." Her heart sank. "What did you say?" "I told them to go to hell. Lorenzo, I built this company. I'm not walking away because some criminal with a grudge decided to make my life difficult. But if the board works for me, not the other way around." He stood, cross to her. "I'm not losing this company, and I'm not losing you. So whatever you're about to say, don't. I was going to say I'm proud of you." That stopped him. "Yeah? Yeah, you could have taken the easy way out. Blamed me, ended things, protected your reputation. But you didn't. Of course I didn't. I love you." "I know. But loving someone and standing by them when everything's falling apart, that's different." He pulled her close. "Not to me." They stood like that for a long time, just holding each other while the world burned around them. "What happens now?" she asked finally. "Now we wait. The investigation takes time. The media moves on to the next scandal. Michael goes to prison. And we rebuild." "You make it sound simple." "It's not, but it's doable." She wanted his confidence, his certainty that everything would work out. But all she felt was tired. "I love you," she said quietly. "I know. Even when I'm difficult?" "Especially then." She smiled despite everything. "You're crazy." "Probably, but I'm your kind of crazy." They went home together that night, to his place, because hers felt too small for the weight they were carrying. He ordered food they didn't eat, poured wine they didn't drink, and they just existed together in the silence. "Can I ask you something?" Evelyn said eventually. "Anything. Do you regret it? Meeting me. Starting this." He was quiet for so long she thought he wasn't going to answer. "No," he said finally. "Even with everything that's happened, I don't regret you. Not for a second." "Why not?" "Because before you, I was just existing, building an empire because I didn't know what else to do. You gave me something to actually fight for, something that mattered more than money or power or reputation." "What's that?" "A future worth living." The words hung in the air between them. Heavy with meaning, Evelyn wasn't sure she was ready to unpack. She'd spent so long convinced that people like her didn't get futures. They got survival, paycheck to paycheck, day by day. The idea that Lorenzo saw something beyond that with her felt too big to hold. She didn't say anything, just curled into him and let herself believe it for one night. The investigation dragged on for weeks. Federal auditors combed through every transaction DeLuca Industries had made in the past decade. The media coverage was relentless. Every day brought new headlines, new speculation, new anonymous sources claiming to have insider information. Most of it was garbage, but it didn't matter. The damage was in the questions, not the answers. Lorenzo handled it the way he handled everything, with grim determination and zero emotion in public. But Evelyn saw the cracks. The way he worked until 2 in the morning, the way his jaw stayed tight even when he smiled, The way he'd pour a drink and then forget to touch it. You need to sleep, she told him one night. It was past midnight, and he was still at his desk reviewing depositions. I need to make sure every detail is airtight. David's already done that, twice. Then I'll do it a third time. She crossed the room, took the papers from his hands. Lorenzo, you're going to burn out. I don't have that luxury. Yes, you do. You have a whole legal team working on this. You don't have to carry it alone. Don't I? It's my company, my reputation. If I fall apart, everyone else follows. You're not falling apart. You're human. There's a difference. He looked at her then, really looked, and she saw how exhausted he was. Not just physically, bone deep, soul tired. I keep thinking about my father, he said quietly, about how he let everything slip through his fingers because he trusted the wrong people. And now I'm watching the same thing happen to me. It's not the same. You didn't do anything wrong. Doesn't matter. The optics are what matter, and right now I look like every other corrupt CEO hiding money overseas. To people who don't know you, everyone who actually matters knows the truth. The board doesn't seem to think so. She couldn't argue with that. The board had been circling like sharks, looking for any excuse to force him out. 3 members had already called for his resignation. 2 more were wavering. What if they succeed? She asked. What if they force you out? Then I build something else. Just like that? Just like that. He pulled her into his lap, wrapped his arms around her waist. I've lost things before. I survived. I'll survive this too. But you shouldn't have to. Maybe not, but the alternative is letting fear paralyze me. And I'm done living like that. She rested her forehead against his. When did you get so wise? Probably around the time I fell in love with a woman who's too stubborn for her own good. She smiled despite everything. Takes one to know one. They went to bed shortly after, though neither of them slept much. Evelyn lay awake, listening to Lorenzo's breathing, feeling the weight of everything pressing down on her chest. She'd tried so hard to keep her past separate from her present, to build a life that was clean and uncomplicated. But the past didn't care about her plans. It showed up anyway, dragging all its ugliness with it. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Meet me tomorrow. Alone. M. Michael. She should delete it, should block the number and pretend she never saw it. But curiosity won out. What do you want? The response came immediately. To help you. 2 p.m. Coffee shop on Green Street. She stared at the message, her gut telling her this was a trap. Michael didn't help anyone unless it benefited him. But she couldn't ignore the possibility that he had information she needed. She went alone the next day, telling Lorenzo she had a personal errand. He didn't push, but she could see the question in his eyes. She hated lying to him, hated it. But if Michael was planning something, she needed to know. The coffee shop was small, tucked between a boutique and a vintage bookstore. Michael was already there, sitting in the back corner. He'd lost weight since the arrest, his face sharper, harder. Prison orange didn't suit him. You came, he said when she sat down. You have 5 minutes. Still cold as ice, some things never change. 4 minutes. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I wanted to apologize. That stopped her. For what? For dragging you into this. For using your relationship with DeLuca to try to cut a deal. It was wrong. Is this the part where you tell me you found redemption in jail? No, this is the part where I tell you I'm getting out. Her blood ran cold. What? My lawyer cut a deal. Reduced charges, time served, probation. I'll be out by the end of the week. That's impossible. You stole $2 million. I cooperated, gave them names, account numbers, everything they needed to dismantle the operation. Turns out I'm more useful outside than in. And you're telling me this why? Because I owe you the truth, and because there's something else you should know. I'm listening. He leaned forward, voice dropping. The documents I gave the investigators about DeLuca Industries. They weren't the only ones. Her stomach dropped. What do you mean? I mean, I kept copies. Insurance, in case things went south. And before you ask, yes, I know they could be valuable to certain people. People who'd pay a lot of money to see Lorenzo DeLuca's empire crumble. You bastard. I prefer pragmatist. He sat back. But here's the thing. I don't want to use them. I'm tired, Evie. Tired of running scams, tired of looking over my shoulder. I want out. Then destroy them. I will. After you do something for me. Absolutely not. Hear me out. I need money. Clean money. Enough to start over somewhere else. Give me 50,000 and the documents disappear forever. She laughed, bitter and sharp. You're blackmailing me. I'm giving you an option. You can pay me and this goes away, or you can refuse and I sell the documents to the highest bidder. Your choice. I should call the police. Go ahead, but by the time they investigate, the damage is done. Those documents hit the media and your boyfriend's company is finished. She wanted to hit him, wanted to scream. Instead, she stood. I need to think about it. You have 48 hours. After that, I make other arrangements. She left without another word, her hands shaking with rage. She couldn't tell Lorenzo. If she did, he'd either pay Michael himself or do something that would land them both in legal trouble. Neither option was acceptable, but she also couldn't let Michael destroy everything Lorenzo had built. She called Jenna. I need $50,000. Jesus, Ev, what happened? Michael's getting out. He has copies of the documents. He's threatening to sell them unless I pay him off. That's extortion. Call the cops. If I do, he leaks them anyway. He's got nothing to lose. What about Lorenzo? Doesn't he have the right to know? He'll try to handle it himself, and I can't let him throw more money at my problems. Jenna was quiet for a moment. I have about 15,000 saved. You can have it. Jen, I'm serious. You need it. It's yours. Evelyn's throat tightened. I can't take your savings. Yes, you can. What's the point of having a best friend if she won't help you commit light financial crimes? Despite everything, Evelyn smiled. Thank you. What about the rest? I'll figure it out. She hung up and stared at her bank account. 32,000. Combined with Jenna's 15, that was 47. Still 3,000 short. She could sell her car. It wasn't worth much, but it might cover the gap. Or she could... Her phone rang. Lorenzo. Hey, she answered, trying to sound normal. Where are you? Running errands. Why? The investigator called. They're wrapping up. Looks like we're clear. Relief flooded through her. That's amazing. Yeah, I'm taking the team out to celebrate tonight. You should come. I'll be there. Evelyn? Yeah? Whatever you're dealing with, you know you can tell me, right? Her heart clenched. I know. Okay, see you tonight. She hung up, hating herself for lying. But she was too close to losing everything to stop now. She sold the car the next day, got 4,000 for it, enough to cover the gap. Transferred the money to a dummy account Michael had set up, and waited. The documents arrived 2 hours later in her email, along with a message. Pleasure doing business with you. Good luck. She deleted everything, cleared her browser history, and tried not to think about what she'd just done. That night at the celebration dinner, she forced herself to smile, to laugh at the right moments, to toast Lorenzo's victory, to pretend everything was fine. He kept looking at her like he knew something was wrong, but he didn't push. It was Marcus from legal who ruined everything. Evelyn, I heard you sold your car. Everything okay? The table went quiet. Lorenzo's eyes locked onto her. Just time for an upgrade, she said lightly. Yeah? What'd you get? Still looking. Weird timing, though, right when Michael's getting out of jail. Lorenzo's expression went cold. What? Marcus backtracked immediately. I just meant I heard through a friend in the DA's office. Didn't realize it was a secret. It's not, Evelyn said quickly. I just didn't think it was worth mentioning. Lorenzo stood. Can I talk to you? Privately? She followed him outside, her heart hammering. He waited until they were alone before turning on her. Michael's getting out and you didn't tell me? I was going to... When? When he showed up at your door? When he tried to extort you again? It's handled. How? How is it handled, Evelyn? She couldn't answer, couldn't look at him. The car, he said slowly. You sold your car. Why? I needed the money. For what? Lorenzo, for what? He had copies of the documents. He threatened to sell them unless I paid him off. The silence that followed was crushing. You paid him, Lorenzo said, voice flat. You paid your criminal brother blackmail money. I didn't have a choice. Yes, you did. You could have told me. We could have handled it together. And what would you have done? Paid him yourself? That's not fair to you. Fair. You think I care about fair right now? You lied to me. You went behind my back and dealt with a man who tried to destroy my company. I was protecting you. No, you were protecting yourself, because if you'd told me, you'd have to admit you couldn't handle it alone. And that terrifies you. That's not, isn't it? Every time something goes wrong, you shut me out. You make decisions without me, like we're not in this together. And I'm tired of it, Evelyn. I'm tired of fighting for a relationship where you won't let me all the way in. I do let you in. Then why am I learning about this from Marcus? Why did you lie to my face at dinner? She didn't have an answer, or she did, but it was the one he didn't want to hear. That she was scared. That letting him help felt like admitting she needed him. That needing someone had always ended badly before. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix this. Then what does? I don't know. He ran a hand through his hair, looking more exhausted than she'd ever seen him. I need some space to think, Lorenzo. I'm not breaking up with you, but I can't do this right now. I can't keep having the same fight where you push me away and then apologize after. How long? I don't know. A few days, maybe a week. A week felt like forever. Okay. He left her standing on the sidewalk, alone in the cold. She went to Jenna's apartment and cried for 3 hours straight. Jenna held her, didn't say I told you so, just let her fall apart. What do I do? Evelyn asked when the tears finally stopped. You give him space, and you figure out why you keep sabotaging yourself. I'm not. Yes, you are. You love him. He loves you. But you're so convinced it's going to end badly that you're making it end badly. Self-fulfilling prophecy. I just wanted to protect him. From what? From your brother? He's a grown man. He can handle his own battles. But it was my fault. Stop. It was Michael's fault, not yours. And until you accept that, you're going to keep punishing yourself for things you didn't do. Evelyn wanted to argue, but she couldn't. Because Jenna was right. She'd spent so long waiting for the other shoe to drop that she'd started kicking it herself. The next few days were hell. She went to work, avoided Lorenzo's office, and tried to focus on anything that wasn't the gaping hole in her chest. He didn't call, didn't text, just gave her the space he said he needed. On day 4, Michael showed up at her apartment. She opened the door to find him standing there, looking smug. What are you doing here? Just wanted to make sure we're square. We're done. Don't contact me again. Relax, I'm leaving town tomorrow. Just wanted to say goodbye. Goodbye. You're still angry. You blackmailed me and nearly destroyed my relationship. What do you think? He had the audacity to look hurt. I gave you an out. You should be thanking me. Get out. Evie, my name is Evelyn, and if you ever contact me again, I'm calling the police. She slammed the door in his face, locked it, and leaned against it until she heard his footsteps fade. Good riddance. That night, Lorenzo called. Can I come over? Yes. He showed up 20 minutes later looking like he hadn't slept much either. They stood in her doorway, neither quite sure how to bridge the gap. I'm sorry, she said first, for lying, for shutting you out, for making you feel like you couldn't help. I'm sorry for walking away. I should have stayed and worked through it. You needed space. That's okay. Is it? Because it feels like we keep having the same fight. I know. And I'm trying to do better, but I'm scared, Lorenzo. I'm terrified that if I need you too much, you'll realize I'm not worth the trouble. That's the dumbest thing you've ever said. She laughed, watery and broken. Probably. He stepped inside, pulled her into his arms. You're worth every bit of trouble, every fight, every complication, every messy family member. You're worth it. Even when I make terrible decisions? Especially then. He pulled back to look at her. But we need to establish something. No more secrets, no more handling things alone. If we're going to make this work, we have to be a team. I can do that. Can you? Because I need to know you're all in, not just when it's easy. I'm all in, I promise. He kissed her then, slow and deep, and she felt like she could finally breathe again. They talked for hours that night, about trust, about fear, about what they both needed from each other. It wasn't easy. There were tears, raised voices, moments where she wanted to retreat into old patterns. But she didn't. She stayed. She fought. And somewhere around 3 a.m, curled up on her couch with Lorenzo's arms around her, she realized something. She wasn't running anymore. The next morning brought news that changed everything. Detective Chen called just after dawn. Michael Patterson is dead. Evelyn's blood went cold. What? Single car accident. Drove off an overpass around midnight. We're still investigating, but it looks like he was intoxicated. Are you sure it was an accident? Why? Do you have reason to think it wasn't? Evelyn thought about the documents, the blackmail, the enemies Michael must have made in his criminal enterprise. No, just asking. After she hung up, she told Lorenzo. I should feel something, she said. Relief, sadness, something. But I just feel numb. That's normal. He was family, even if he wasn't good family. I keep thinking about how I paid him, how those might have been the last words we ever exchanged. You did what you thought was right. That's all any of us can do. She nodded, but the guilt sat heavy in her chest. The funeral was small. Just Evelyn, a court-appointed representative, and a handful of people she didn't recognize. Probably other criminals paying their respects. Lorenzo came with her, held her hand through the service. She didn't cry, couldn't, just stood there feeling hollow. Afterward, the representative handed her a box. His effects. You're listed as next of kin. Inside was almost nothing. A wallet with $17, a phone that was probably evidence, and a letter addressed to her. She opened it in the car. Evie, if you're reading this, something went wrong. I wanted you to know the money you gave me is in an account under your name. Consider it repayment for all the times I screwed you over. I know I was a terrible brother. I'm sorry I couldn't be better. She stared at the account information, feeling something crack inside her chest. He gave it back, she whispered. Lorenzo read the letter over her shoulder. Looks like it. Why would he do that? Maybe he wanted to do one decent thing before he died. She folded the letter carefully, tucked it back in the box. I don't know if that makes it better or worse. Maybe it's just what it is. She leaned into him, let him hold her while the grief finally came. Not for the brother she had, but for the one she'd never gotten to know. That night, she made a decision. She'd use the money Michael left her to fund a scholarship for kids from broken homes. Kids like she'd been. Kids like Michael might have been, if someone had given him a different chance. It wouldn't fix anything. Wouldn't bring him back or erase his crimes. But it was something. A way to turn something ugly into something that might help someone else. Lorenzo helped her set it up. The Patterson Carter Memorial Scholarship, for students who'd aged out of foster care and were trying to build better lives. It was small, but it mattered. And as they worked through the paperwork together, Evelyn realized this was what partnership looked like. Not just the good times, but the hard ones too. The messy, complicated, painful moments where you had to choose to stay instead of run. She chose to stay. The scholarship launch happened on a gray Saturday in March, 6 weeks after Michael's funeral. Evelyn stood in the community center, where she'd spent 2 years after her parents died, looking at the kids who'd shown up, 15 of them, all aging out of foster care, all trying to figure out how to pay for college. Lorenzo was beside her, hands in his pockets, watching her with that quiet intensity she'd come to recognize as pride. You ready? He asked. She nodded, though her throat felt tight. She talked for 20 minutes about second chances, about how one scholarship had saved her life, about how she wanted to give others the same opportunity. She didn't mention Michael by name, didn't need to. The kids understood what she was really saying, that broken people could still do good things, even if they did them badly. Afterward, a girl approached her, maybe 17, skinny and guarded in the way Evelyn remembered being. Did you really grow up in the system? The girl asked. Yeah, bounced between 4 homes before I aged out. And you made it. I made it, you will too. The girl nodded, didn't quite smile, but something in her eyes shifted. Hope, maybe, or the beginning of it. That night, back at Lorenzo's place, Evelyn felt something settle in her chest, something that had been restless for years. Thank you, she said, for helping with this. You did all the work. But you believed in it, in me. He pulled her close. Always. They'd been living together for a month now. Her lease had ended, and it seemed stupid to renew when she spent every night at his place anyway. It still felt surreal sometimes, waking up in his bed, having coffee on his balcony, existing in a space that was theirs instead of his or hers. I've been thinking, Lorenzo said carefully. About? About us. About where this is going. Her heart kicked. Okay. I want you to quit. She pulled back to look at him. What? Working for me. I want you to quit. Lorenzo, hear me out. You're brilliant. You could do anything you want. But as long as you're my assistant, people are always going to question whether you're there because of your talent or because we're together, and I hate that for you. So, you want me unemployed? I want you free, to figure out what you actually want to do, not what you fell into because you needed a paycheck. She'd been thinking about this too, if she was honest. The job that had once felt like salvation now felt like a cage. But walking away was terrifying. What would I even do? Whatever you want, take time, explore. I'll support you while you figure it out. I can't let you do that. Why not? Because I've always taken care of myself. I don't know how to let someone else do it. Then learn, the same way I'm learning to let you in. She was quiet for a long moment. Can I think about it? Take all the time you need. But the seed was planted, and over the next few weeks she started to imagine what life might look like if she wasn't defined by her job title, if she could build something of her own instead of supporting someone else's vision. The answer came from an unexpected place. One of the scholarship recipients emailed her, asking for advice on business plans. The kid wanted to start a nonprofit connecting foster youth with mentors in their chosen fields. It was ambitious, probably doomed to fail, but Evelyn found herself energized by it in a way work hadn't energized her in years. She spent hours helping him refine the concept, connect with potential donors, build a framework, and somewhere in that process, she realized what she wanted to do. I want to start a consulting firm, she told Lorenzo one night, helping nonprofits get organized, operations, fundraising, strategic planning, all the stuff I've been doing for you, but for organizations that actually need it. His face lit up. That's perfect. You think? I think you'd be incredible at it. It's a huge risk. I might fail. Or you might build something amazing. Either way, you'll never know if you don't try. She gave her notice the next day. The conversation with HR was awkward. They clearly didn't know how to handle an assistant quitting to start her own business while dating the CEO. But Lorenzo backed her up, made it clear this was her decision, and by the end of the week, she was free. It was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. She spent the first month building a website, reaching out to her network, taking meetings with small nonprofits who needed help but couldn't afford big consulting fees. The work was hard. She had no guaranteed income, no safety net except Lorenzo, and that made her skin crawl with anxiety. But she also had something she'd never had before: autonomy, control over her own future. Her first real client was a domestic violence shelter that was hemorrhaging money due to poor financial management. She spent 2 weeks restructuring their budget, training their staff, and setting up systems that would actually work long term. When she left, the director hugged her and cried. "You saved us," the woman said. Evelyn drove home feeling like maybe she'd finally found the thing she was meant to do. Lorenzo was waiting when she got back, champagne already open. "To your first success," he said, handing her a glass. "It's one client, hardly a success. It's the beginning of something. That counts." They drank to beginnings, to risks, to building something worth having. But the universe wasn't done testing them yet. 3 months into her new business, Lorenzo came home looking shaken. "What happened?" Evelyn asked immediately. "The board called an emergency meeting. They want me to step down." Her blood went cold. "Why?" "The investigation cleared you." Apparently some investors are still nervous about the offshore accounts. They think new leadership would restore confidence. That's insane. You built that company. I know, but they have the votes. If they want me out, I'm out. She watched him pour a drink with shaking hands, watched him try to maintain the composure that had carried him through every other crisis. But this was different. This wasn't about money or reputation. This was about losing the thing he'd built to honor his father. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "I don't know. Fight maybe, or walk away with whatever dignity I have left." "You're not walking away." "Evelyn? No, you don't get to give up. Not after everything you've survived. Not after you taught me how to fight." He looked at her, exhausted. "I'm tired of fighting." "I know, but you don't have to do it alone." The next week was brutal. Lorenzo met with board members individually, trying to shore up support. Evelyn helped where she could, researching voting procedures, preparing talking points, making sure he ate and slept even when he didn't want to. The night before the vote, they lay in bed staring at the ceiling. "What if I lose?" Lorenzo asked quietly. "Then you lose. And we figure out what comes next. Just like that? Just like that. You're more than your company, Lorenzo. You know that, right?" "I used to think I was. Before you, the company was all I had. All I was. And now? Now I have something worth living for, even if everything else falls apart." She turned to face him. "You're not going to fall apart, but if you do, I'll be there to catch you." He kissed her forehead. "I love you. I love you too." The vote happened on a Thursday. Evelyn wasn't allowed in the boardroom, so she waited in Lorenzo's office, pacing and checking her phone every 30 seconds. 4 hours later, he walked in. She couldn't read his expression. "Well?" she asked. "I won. Barely, but I won." Relief flooded through her. She crossed the room, threw her arms around him. "I knew you would." "Did you? Because I didn't." "Yes, you did. You just forgot for a minute." He held her tight, and she felt the tension drain from his body. "Thank you." "For what?" "For believing in me when I couldn't." That's what partners do. They celebrated that night, but quietly. Just the two of them, Chinese food and cheap wine, talking about everything except business. Somewhere around midnight, Lorenzo set down his glass and looked at her. "Move in with me, officially." "I already live here. I mean, let's make it real. Combine our lives, not just share space. We are real. You know what I mean. I want your books on my shelves, your coffee mugs in my cabinets. I want to trip over your shoes and complain about how you leave cabinet doors open." She laughed. "You've noticed that? I notice everything about you. So what do you say? Want to make this official?" "Yes, but only if you promise to stop organizing my clothes by color. It's creepy." "No promises." They moved her things in over the next month. It was messier than she expected. Arguments about furniture placement, whose art went where, how to merge two lives that had been separate for so long. But it was also good, real. The kind of thing she'd stopped letting herself imagine. Her business grew steadily. Nothing explosive, but sustainable. She took on clients she cared about, turned down ones that didn't align with her values, and built something she was actually proud of. It wasn't DeLuca Industries' money, but it was hers. Lorenzo's company stabilized. The media moved on to other scandals. Investors regained confidence, and slowly things returned to something resembling normal. He still worked too much, still carried too much weight on his shoulders, but he was learning to delegate, to trust. They fell into a rhythm. Morning coffee on the balcony, late dinners when their schedules allowed, weekend trips upstate where they could pretend the rest of the world didn't exist. It wasn't perfect. They still fought about work-life balance, about her tendency to overcommit, about his need to control everything. But they fought fair, and they always came back to each other. 6 months after the board vote, Lorenzo took her back to the Metropolitan Museum, the same balcony where he'd told her she belonged. "Why are we here?" she asked. "Because this is where I realized I wanted to spend my life with you." Her heart stopped. "Lorenzo." He pulled out a ring, small, elegant, nothing flashy. "Exactly right. I know we've done everything backwards. Started as boss and assistant, fell in love during a crisis, built a life in the middle of chaos. But I wouldn't change any of it, because every messy, complicated step brought us here." He took her hand. "Marry me. Not because it makes sense or because it's the next logical step, but because I can't imagine my life without you in it." She was crying before he finished. "Yes. Of course. Yes." He slipped the ring on her finger, kissed her while the city sprawled beneath them, and she felt something she'd spent her whole life chasing finally click into place. Belonging. They got married 4 months later. Small ceremony, just close friends and family. Jenna was her maid of honor, crying through the entire thing. Lorenzo's sister flew in from California, and they reconciled over champagne and childhood stories. Evelyn wore a simple dress, no veil, no fuss. Lorenzo wore a suit he'd already owned. The whole thing cost less than the flowers at the DeLuca Industries gala. It was perfect. During the vows, Lorenzo's voice cracked when he said, "I promise to see you, always, even when you're trying to disappear." Evelyn's response was equally shaky. "I promise to stay, even when I'm scared." Those were the vows that mattered, not the traditional ones about sickness and health, but the ones they'd learned through trial and error, the ones that acknowledged their broken pieces while promising to be gentle with them. The reception was at a restaurant in Brooklyn, nothing fancy. They danced to terrible music, ate too much cake, and Lorenzo gave a speech that made everyone cry. 5 years ago, I hired an assistant. I thought I was getting someone to manage my schedule. Instead, I got someone who changed my life, who taught me that power isn't about control. It's about trust. That love isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. That family isn't what you're born into. It's what you build. He raised his glass. To Evelyn, for teaching me how to be human. She couldn't respond without sobbing, so she just kissed him instead. They honeymooned in Italy, 2 weeks of pasta and wine and absolutely no work. Lorenzo had wanted something more elaborate, but Evelyn insisted on simple. They rented a farmhouse in Tuscany, spent their days hiking through vineyards and their nights cooking meals that were probably terrible but tasted like happiness. I could get used to this, Lorenzo said one evening. They were on the patio, watching the sun set over rolling hills. No, you couldn't. You'd be bored in a week. Maybe. But it's nice to pretend. We could do this more often, take time off. Actually live instead of just working. You're the one who took on 3 new clients last month. Fair point. She leaned against him. We're not very good at relaxing, are we? Terrible, but we're working on it. They returned to New York tanned and rested, ready to dive back into their respective chaos. But something had shifted. They were better at boundaries now, better at saying no to things that didn't matter, better at protecting the life they'd built together. Evelyn's firm grew. She hired 2 associates, rented office space, and started turning away clients because she couldn't keep up with demand. It was surreal, going from assistant to CEO, but Lorenzo guided her through the growing pains. Delegate, he reminded her constantly, you can't do everything yourself, says the man who still reads every contract personally. Do as I say, not as I do. She hired a business manager, an office coordinator, an accountant who wasn't her with a spreadsheet and panic. It helped. The business ran smoother. She slept better. 2 years after the wedding, they bought a house. Not a penthouse, an actual house in Park Slope with a backyard and creaky floors and a kitchen that needed renovating. It was too big for 2 people, but Lorenzo said they'd grow into it. Evelyn didn't ask what he meant. She was learning to let the future unfold without needing every answer immediately. The scholarship fund expanded. They'd funded 20 students in the first year, 35 in the second. By year 3, they had corporate sponsors and a waiting list. Evelyn interviewed every applicant personally, looking for the same things someone had once seen in her, potential buried under trauma. One girl reminded her so much of herself it hurt. Same guardedness, same determination to prove she didn't need help. Why should we pick you? Evelyn asked during the interview. Because I'll work harder than anyone else. I always have. That's not what I asked. The girl faltered. I don't understand. Working hard is baseline. Everyone works hard. I want to know why you deserve this opportunity. Not because you'll hustle, because you matter. The girl's eyes filled. No one's ever asked me that before. I'm asking now. I want to be a social worker. I want to help kids like me. Kids who think they're disposable. You're not disposable. I know. But it took me 17 years to believe it. Evelyn funded her on the spot. That night she told Lorenzo about the interview. She reminded me of me, all that armor, all that fear that if she needed anything, she'd lose everything. Sounds familiar. I was insufferable, wasn't I? You were scared. There's a difference. I'm sorry I put you through that. I'm not. You needed time to trust me. That's okay. Even when I was awful? Especially then. Anyone can love you when you're easy. I wanted to love you when you were hard. She kissed him, this man who'd somehow seen past every wall she'd built. I'm glad you stuck around. Where else would I go? You're the best thing that ever happened to me. 3 years into their marriage, Lorenzo's sister called with news. She was sick, cancer, stage 3. Lorenzo fell apart in a way Evelyn had never seen. He flew to California immediately, spent 2 weeks at her bedside, and came home hollow. She's scared, he told Evelyn, and I don't know how to fix it. You can't fix cancer, Lorenzo. You can just be there. That doesn't feel like enough. It's all we have. He spent the next 6 months flying back and forth between coasts. Evelyn managed both their schedules, kept his company running, and held him together when he came home exhausted and grieving. His sister survived. Barely. But she survived. And when she was finally in remission, she moved to New York. "I want to be near family," she said, "whatever time I have left." She moved into their guest room temporarily, which became permanently. It was crowded and chaotic and sometimes drove Evelyn crazy. But it was also full of life in a way their perfect penthouse never had been. They had family dinners, game nights, arguments about whose turn it was to do dishes, all the normal messy things Evelyn had never experienced growing up. "Is this what family is supposed to be like?" she asked Lorenzo one night. "I think so. Why?" "Because I like it, even when it's annoying." "Me too." 4 years into their marriage, Evelyn got pregnant. It wasn't planned. She'd been on birth control. They'd been careful. But life didn't care about plans. She took the test alone, in the bathroom of her office, and stared at the positive result for a full 10 minutes. She wasn't ready. She'd never wanted kids. She had a business to run. Lorenzo had a company to manage. They were busy, established in their lives. A baby didn't fit into any of that. But as she sat there, hand on her still flat stomach, she felt something unexpected. Excitement. She told Lorenzo that night over dinner, just blurted it out between bites of pasta. "I'm pregnant." He dropped his fork. "What?" "I'm pregnant. I took a test today. 2 tests. Both positive." He stared at her, expression unreadable. "And you want—" "I don't know what I want. I know it's terrible timing. I know we never talked about this, but I—" Her voice cracked. "I think I want this." His face broke into a smile. "Yeah? Yeah. Is that crazy?" "Completely." He came around the table, pulled her into his arms. "But I want it too." "You do?" "I've wanted it for years. I just didn't think you did." "I didn't, but now I think maybe I could be good at this. We could be good at this. We're going to be terrible at it, and that's okay." They were terrible at it. Evelyn worked through her entire pregnancy, right up until her water broke during a client meeting. Lorenzo panicked through labor, held her hand so tight he left bruises, and cried when their daughter was born. They named her Claire, after no one in particular, just because they liked the name. Parenthood was harder than any business challenge Evelyn had ever faced. Claire didn't sleep. Evelyn's body felt foreign. Lorenzo couldn't figure out diapers. They were exhausted and overwhelmed and completely in love. "I thought I knew what tired was," Evelyn said one night at 3 a.m, rocking a screaming baby. "I was wrong." Lorenzo took Claire from her arms. "Go to sleep. I've got her." "You have a meeting at 7. I'll survive. Sleep." She did, and woke 4 hours later to find him passed out in the nursery, Claire asleep on his chest. It wasn't the life she'd planned, but it was the life she had. And for the first time in her existence, that felt like enough. They hired help, a nanny for when they both needed to work, Lorenzo's sister who was happy to babysit. They learned to delegate, to ask for help, to accept that they couldn't do everything perfectly. Claire grew. Started walking at 10 months, talking at a year. She had Lorenzo's eyes and Evelyn's stubborn streak. She was perfect and impossible in equal measure. On Claire's second birthday, they threw a party in their backyard. Friends, family, chaos, everywhere. Evelyn watched Lorenzo chase their daughter around while she screamed with laughter and felt something settle in her chest. This was what she'd been running from her whole life. Connection. Vulnerability. The terrifying possibility that she could have something good and not lose it. But she wasn't running anymore. That night, after everyone left and Claire was asleep, Evelyn and Lorenzo sat on their patio with wine and exhaustion. "We did good," Lorenzo said. "We did something. Not sure good is the right word. We built a life. That's good." "Yeah." She leaned against him. "It is." "Any regrets?" She thought about the question seriously. About the dreams that had started everything. About the 5 years she'd spent loving him in secret. About the risks and the fights and the moments she'd almost walked away. "No," she said finally. "No regrets. Not even the messy parts?" "Especially the messy parts. They're what made it real." He kissed the top of her head. "I love you, you know that?" "I know. I love you too." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars come out over Brooklyn. The city hummed around them, indifferent and eternal. But in their small corner of it, they'd built something that mattered. Not because it was perfect, because it was theirs. And that, Evelyn had learned, was the only thing that ever really mattered. Not perfection, not control. Just two people choosing each other, day after messy day, building something worth keeping.